punch that button right there and Zoom to actually Zoom and Discord both behave the same way for recording. So I get separated audio channels for you and me, which
Okay.
is really useful if like there's background noise on one side and not the other. Not just
Mhm.
the things one learns.
Yes.
Welcome back to another episode of Scouting Stuff. You got two of us this evening, or this afternoon, today. It's afternoon where you are. It's morning where I am. And as you can tell from what I just said, connecting over the internet, Scouter Colin is not here, unfortunately. I am still Scouter Ken. And on the other end of the line, we have Mr. Will Lehman.
Hello, hello.
And I guess why don't we just jump right into the introduction part, because this is your first time on the cast. So
Yeah.
who are you and what do you do?
So my name is Will. I currently work with the Transatlantic Council, which serves our military bases for the USA in Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. My role with the Transatlantic Council is I am the program director for Camp Alpine, which runs out of the Kandersteg International Scouts Center. I've been with the BSA my entire life. This will be my 12th year on a summer camp staff. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, alrighty. So now we did touch on Transatlantic Council, mouthful today, briefly when I did the episode with the two Pinkies, Laura and Sam
Yeah.
from while I was at Kandersteg. And Laura, of course, also heavily involved with Transatlantic Council. I assume you two have at least crossed paths once or twice, if not spoken.
Yes.
But and so she gave us a very good brief overview of what the council entails. But this, I think, is maybe an opportunity to sort of, to pick it apart a little bit and really get a better understanding for how it works, because the U.S. does have a lot of people, military, and there was one kid from Transatlantic that I met while I was at Kandersteg, but he had only come from Bern. So I'm assuming it's not just military bases, it's probably also like embassies as well, right?
Yes, correct. So we serve our wider military families and groups. So whether that's our diplomats abroad, the embassies, NATO, and all of our branches of the military is the demographic that we serve. So yeah, that's kind of what we do. We try to offer as much of a same experience that those scouts here in the States have overseas, which is really fun. Yeah.
I'm a little curious about how that would work, because even though, they are under one council, just describing that area, that geographic area, Europe, Africa, right? Like you're supporting detachments in a fairly wide, a fairly wide, but also very tall stretch of the globe, right? Like, the distance between, say, Germany and I can't even think of where U.S. presence would be strongest in Africa, but just to, I have contacts in Nigeria, so even we'll go like, from Germany to Nigeria, like that's still a big chunk of planet. So
Right.
it's not like, you're having weekly scout meetings down at the local scout hall in Sicily. I'm curious just how that works with so many geographically disparate places that you might have scouting youth in. Like what sort of things does Transatlantic Council facilitate, and how do you enable these kids to do scouting on a regular basis? What does that even look like?
Yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned that because they actually do meet weekly. A lot of the BSA troops, Cub packs, or even venture crews are chartered to the base itself, usually affiliated with the school that's on base. So they are able to meet just like a regular troop here in the States weekly, because it's all pretty much around like base living is essentially what it is. So it's our communities. But we offer at a council level, we have numerous district camporees. We have council-wide events like Klondike Derby, which is also out of Kisk. We operate 2 summer camps as normally as we can. With there are certain things that apply in European law that necessarily don't apply with NCAP, which is our camp accreditation program, things like that. So we have Camp Alpine, and then we also have Camp Aventura BSA that runs out of Croatia. And then every 2 years, we have a different camp that runs. Back in 2022 is the first year that it happened. And that was in Kenya. And we are excited that, again, it will be over the 2023-2024, like Christmas break time. It will be happening again in Kenya. So we're super excited about that as well.
Nice. Okay, cool. So yeah, and I mean, I guess probably then council would be like where you facilitate a lot of the, like if people need visas or whatever else to take part in this stuff. I'm assuming council sort of helps facilitate all of that. It's not just.
Yeah, so we so again with the Transatlantic Council kind of having like our little weird quirks, working with Transatlantic Council, when I go over, I don't have to have a visa because we're technically an American company. Like
Right.
Our headquarters are technically in Delaware. So it's still working for a US based company as a US citizen. And then we have headquarters in Brussels. So we kind of have like our main, obviously our main office there. Okay. And so just traveling to different Scout events is just, here in the States is like going from Illinois to Missouri, for the weekend or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, I guess it's one thing if, like you're moving from a US base over here to a US base over here, because technically it is all US soil.
Yes.
So that works. And I guess too, that explains, and I mean, this isn't a Transatlantic Council thing, but it's just, the weird way my brain makes connections. I guess that also explains like why when things went a little bit sideways at WJ this year, the US contingent evacuated to a military base because there probably would have been all the scouting leadership and infrastructure and support already on base.
Yes.
Through the Pacific Council.
Yes, that would be Far East Council.
Far East Council, yes. Cool. So, all right. Now, I guess maybe let's roll it back a little bit because there's always like the historical aspect to this. And maybe this is just fresh in mind because it was Thanksgiving here. Most of my coworkers are American. So they're just like, wait, the Canadians do it backwards. I'm just like, we've been doing it longer than you have. Like this goes back to the 1500s for us. So history's on my brain. So when was Transatlantic Council first organized? Like, and sort of, I mean, I think we can kind of guess what prompted the formation of it, but like when was it actually like formally organized? How did it come about?
Yeah, so the Transatlantic Council was formed after National BSA had decided that it was more feasible to run just a restructuring program, which, we're all very accustomed to doing here in the BSA is restructuring. So about 1970 is when Transatlantic Council came to be. And so that was kind of like the dissolution of the Direct Service Council, which at that time was for everything worldwide outside of the United States. And so the Far East Council and Transatlantic Council were created with that dissolution to serve all our military bases abroad. And then the National Capital Area Council also hosts some of their districts, direct district service into some of our territories a little closer to here. So that's kind of how that works. But yeah, we've been around for about the 1970s and going strong ever since.
Yeah, that's all right. About how many youth would you say are sort of, and I mean, I imagine this is a number that is heavily subjected to flux, but like, what's the roughly current youth membership in council?
I would have to say it's probably about, and I may be lowballing, about 400, 500 youth across like everything in all of our programs.
Right. And I mean, that'll obviously fluctuate depending on who's getting deployed where and whatever else. So.
Yeah.
Who knows?
We all lovingly refer to as PCS season, which usually happens about every 2-3 years. And so it's just like
Yep,
it's like a revolving door.
exactly. Okay, so now let's maybe, and I had to laugh because, of course, you're like, oh yeah, Camp Alpine, and I do vaguely recall Laura mentioning it, and then I completely blanked on that because I am a goldfish. And um, so when you mentioned Camp Alpine in your email, I was just like, oh, okay, hang on. Searching. I'm like, oh, there's one in Oregon. That wouldn't be Transatlantic Council. That's the other coast. Oh, there's one in New Jersey. Maybe that's the one he means. Because apparently there is like a little Cub Scout camp, also called Camp Alpine,
Yes.
in New Jersey somewhere.
Yes.
So, hence my confusion. But no, Camp Alpine is another name for the Kandersteg International Scout Center, KISC. And so has that partnership basically been there as long as the council has existed, or did that come along a little later?
Well, actually, fun thing you mentioned that 2024 is our 25th anniversary of Camp Alpine. So we've got a big summer in store, also just coming off the heels of Condor 100, which is really fun. Um, but yeah, so we've been doing this for about 25 years now. Um, it hasn't been until the recent years that we've actually been really able to establish this phenomenal working relationship with KISC, and we basically kind of have like a 5-year contract with them.
Oh,
Uh, so we that came about, I think around 2019 is when we started that process. But yeah, we've had this wonderful working relationship with KISC in the past few years.
awesome. And yeah, I mean, I know, again, Laura had mentioned that a lot of the transatlantic youth that do come back stateside, they have significantly more experience with KISC than your average stateside scout would.
Right.
The name recognition, as I lamented in the podcast with Laura and Sam, is that it's just not as strong here
Right.
as I think we'd all like it to be. But
Right. I
yeah.
will say that the word is getting out about KISC. I serve as the ambassador for the Boy Scouts of America to the Scout Center.
Hmm,
And I've had a lot of units really starting to reach out about planning upcoming trips to the Scout Center. So
nice.
word is getting out there.
Excellent. Actually, funny you mentioned that. So if you got a 25th anniversary coming up next year, like I'm assuming there's going to be sort of, a bunch of BSA centric events happening in and around KISC at some point. Do you have a rough
It
timeline?
so for us, it'll be just when we celebrate our 25th anniversary will be like when we hold our summer camp, which when we hold our camp is at the forefront of the summer season
Oh, okay.
for KISC. We're kind of like the trial run for the rest of the summer, which is totally fine. Because our staff week with my camp staff starts their last week of training, and then our week one is like their week one of the summer season, which is really fun.
Okay.
And so like we'll do special things as Camp Alpine for our 25th anniversary, which we always welcome anybody who's at KISS to come and participate with us, especially with our campfires and things like that. So
Yeah.
we're still in the very early stages of developing on what that looks like, but we're super excited, as well as some great like t-shirts and patches and things like that. That's the big thing with the BSA is patches.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we're always here for cool patches.
Badges? Oh, we need our stinking badges. Uh, yeah, no, I was just asking because, and it's funny you mentioned it too, that, more interest is coming up. I actually had a lady reach out to me, just over the weekend. Um, Canadian, I guess her group, 4 scouters and some like a dozen-ish venturers are heading to KISC next year as well over the summer. But they're not going to be there till like late July. So
Oh
they
yeah.
might miss the festivities, but I
Yeah.
mean, there's still lots to take in and around the area. So,
Oh,
and she was just
absolutely.
looking for like ideas and stuff, but it's just like, oh, if there was some chance for an overlap there, then, I might try and tee her up to make sure she had lots of badges to trade and whatever else, but, not so much this time. Oh,
Yes.
well. I do love the badge trading part of it as well. I mean, for me, actually, the big one is Necker trading. So I can literally just like reach behind me and grab like just an absolute mitt full of neckerchiefs. Um, but
Yes, I've gotten in. That has been, I've been into patch trading ever since 2012, probably. And then it wasn't until I started working with Transatlantic Council that I've really gotten into neckerchief trading, and I've got some cool neckers lying around. And actually, one of those being from 2022, the Canadian contingent when they were at KISK, which that was really fun, and they were a great group of people.
nice. Yeah, I mean, we're Canadian.
Right.
uh, yeah, actually, and it's funny too because like scarf trading is always like neckerchief trading is always funny to me because there's certain ones that just like captivate the interest. Um, I kind of regret that I didn't get one of the French ones this time around because I really, really liked those. I did get one of the Swedish ones though, which had some really nice work along the stripe, right? Like just along the
Yeah.
border. But ours were really crazy popular again this year. Like
Oh, awesome.
I brought 10 over. I came back with none. Traded literally all of them. I had to order two more from the producer. Oh, once I got back.
It was like when we started camp this year, uh, there was a large group of Australians that came in, and everybody was after their neckers. And I mean, they had been there for maybe a week, and everybody's like, "Nope, we don't have any more. We've traded all of ours."
Yeah, not happening. Not happening. Yeah. Well, and it's funny. Yeah, and I brought my group neckers too. I brought a bunch of group neckers too, and again, those are all gone. Like it just and it's funny too, like, kind of where everybody's tastes are because you have some people come up to you and they're like, they've been doing the trading game for a while. They've really got the whole, like, they're looking to make a deal, man. Like they're looking to get
Yeah.
only what they want. And there's other people who are just like, that looks cool. Can I just like have one of those and I'll trade you, whatever. Right. Like,
Right.
so it works both ways, I guess. But yeah, no, that's awesome. And of course, I mean, I assume because Kisk has a series of like patches as well that they make available too, depending on which of the adventures you go on there, right? Like they have some of their overnight hut stuff, and they had some that might have been Kander 100 specific. But like I remember that was sort of but then like Kandersteg is very like they're very tech friendly.
Right.
So like it was kind of a weird thing going there because when we do camps, and I don't know if this is true for a lot of BSA as well, I assume it is, but I don't, I assume absent evidence. We generally de-emphasize devices, and sometimes the packing list will explicitly say no devices. Obviously the scouters will have phones and whatever else because, we're the emergency contact points, but we try not to have the youth have those if at all possible. But so it was a little bit of a mentality shift when, like a month before we fly out, Kandersteg sends it this email saying, by the way, here's everybody's Wi-Fi passwords, bring your devices, you'll need it for the app and the badges. And I'm just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But they, now they have well, it started as the Kander 100 app. I think it's going to roll over into a generalized Kisk app at some point. But like, you were going around and doing activities and you would scan QR codes. And as you accumulated enough activities based on the QR code scanning, you would earn certain badges. And then once you earned that badge, you could go to the info desk and like obtain the physical equivalent of it.
Oh,
And like I say, I think some of them were Kander 100 specific, but some of them are, I think, more just like generalized Kisk type badges. So
that's awesome.
Mm.
I think that'd be now I want to participate in that.
Right. It was just a very different way of like thinking about the relationship between scouting and technology. And of course, Kandersteg would be like at the forefront of that because why wouldn't they? But
Right. I think for us, we use our registration software that we use for summer camps, which a lot of BSA councils have adopted, does our advancement tracking online. And so which is really nice because I can set, make up little accounts for my area directors and outdoor skills or ecology and things like that. And then they get a roster with all of the requirements that they're teaching. And at the end of the day, they can go in and say, yep, Johnny B Scout has, completed this one. And the leaders can scan a QR code and they can keep up to date with what their scouts are doing. And it gives them the chance to be like, hey, I noticed you're missing this requirement. well, after Friday, we're not here. So we need to make
Yeah.
sure we with that counselor to make sure that this is completed before we leave.
Chop chop. Yeah. Uh, what software is that, if you don't mind my asking? Because I know that BSA has 2 or 3 different ones available to it.
Yeah, so we use Black Pug is the registration site, which a lot of councils are starting to use, and then it easily transfers that information into Scout Book is the primary one that everybody uses for advancement tracking. Yeah, those are kind of like the two that we heavily use.
Cool. Yeah, we have something analogous on the Canadian side. It's called Scouts Tracker. You've probably heard, if you've listened to podcast episodes long enough, you've heard me bellyache about it before. It's it does all of that stuff, but in not a it's not great. It's slow and it's web only. There's no app. There's no notifications and outside of email. But it does like all the badge requirements tracking, which is good. And then like it is handy if like, a kid transfers to another troop, I can just bounce I can contact the troop leader there and be just like, look, just give me your Scouts Tracker code. I'll bounce the kid to you. And then all their profile data transfers over. So it's got a lot of those nice to have features. It's just built in the most inconvenient way. So it's kind of a necessary evil. But I mean, it is handy to have all of that because otherwise, I remember going through Cub Scouts, right? And I had my Cub book. And it's like,
Right.
all the checklists are right there and it's manually checking them off each week, get the scouter to initial, which I guess works too. But, like this is an all right solution. But
Yeah,
Black Pug, I'm going to have to look into that.
Yeah, we still emphasize, especially with rank advancement with our scouts, is still keep that, your scout book is yours and that's your record keeper. Technology is only a great thing when it works. So when it doesn't work, it's good to have a book that's like, no, I have this signed off. Let's get it online that says it's signed off,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah. Well, my daughter was like that the other day, actually, because she just moved up to Vents. So she's in Venturers now. She just moved up from Scouts. And she's like going through and she's like, okay, I need all like, so the way our badge program works, we have 2 different badge streams. One is called personal achievement badges, and those are local to the section, right? So you earn them in Beavers or you earn them in Cubs, and they're different sets of badges. But then those are kind of like merit badges, but they're not like, we used to be more on the BSA type model, right? So we used to have like more, I have a sewing badge or a photography badge or a drawing badge, or like very purpose specific badges. And with our new program, we got rid of all of the specific ones. So now the personal achievement badges are just like, they're categories. There's like a hobby badge, right? And it doesn't matter what your hobby is. Stamp collecting, coin collecting, Pokemon cards. I don't care, right? Like we can build some we can build requirements for you to get that badge based on whatever your particular hobby is. And those are not tied to progression in our program at all. They're just, you can earn them if you want them. If you don't earn a single one of them, it's not going to hurt you. But then we also have the outdoor adventure skills badges. And that's a cluster of 9 different badges. And again, in a way, they're categories. So like emergency aid or winter skills or scoutcraft skills or camping skills. But they are leveled. So each badge has 9 levels, and the levels have very specific checklisted requirements. I have been on so many hikes. I can tie particular knots, blah, 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 blah. Those are what we use for progression tracking. Okay. And, but the cool thing about them is they move with you. So if you earn your Scoutcraft 1 when you're in Beavers, then you start Cubs with Scoutcraft 1 already in the bag. You can earn your Scoutcraft 2, 3, 4, and it just follows you up as you move between sections.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So of course she's got her Venture uniform brand new, and she's like, okay, I need all my badges on this. And then she's looking at the badges on her scouting room, and she's just like, I swear I have Scoutcraft.
Yeah.
But it's not on the uniform, right? So then it's like, okay, hang on, log into Scouttrack. Oh yeah, shoot, you should have Scoutcraft. Okay, you know what? We'll talk to Scouter James. We'll get that sorted out for you. So it is useful to have these records, definitely, because then you can go back and you can actually, exactly like you say, oh, I should have this badge. You're right. You should have this badge. Let's get that fixed for you.
Right.
So that is cool. Geez, I don't have too many more questions about like the Transatlantic and Camp Alpine specifically, but like, I don't know, like, is there anything that you think that we've not covered? Anything that, else you wanted to really just put out there and kind of, um, because it's cool information about either or.
Yeah. So for us, we at Camp Alpine, we do welcome Scouts BSA groups from the States so that if they want to come over and experience a semi-traditional Scouts BSA resident summer camp, that they can come and do summer camp with us. Our program is still designed to match everything. It's kind of great that being where we are, we have something for everybody. So we have our base camp program, which is like our first year camper program, where they're going to heavily work on Scout skills and working on rank requirements for Scout, Tenderfoot, second and first class ranks. And then we have our Ascent program, which is our merit badge program.
Okay.
And we have our merit badges set up in blocks. So there's 3 blocks throughout the day. But you have the opportunity to earn 2 merit badges per block. So we kind of pair like ones together. Like we had communications and journalism together, weather and astronomy, like those kind of things. And then we have our Summit program, which is our high adventure program. And so this is for the Scouts who may have already earned their Eagle Scout and they're like, but I still want to go to summer camp and I'm still under 18. And so they can go out and do a lot of the high adventure options through KISK. And we've also last year started a trek program where they kind of come in Sunday night, Monday morning, we say goodbye and they come back Wednesday night and they're hut hopping through the 12 or the 3 peaks.
Say mountain huts. Yeah.
And then, but the summit, our regular summit groups, they do the day excursions like to High Ropes Interlochen or something like that, or go whitewater rafting. So that's kind of like what we do. So there's a little something for everybody.
Nice.
But yeah, I would say if anybody has a chance, check out Transatlantic Council. We have so many awesome things, especially in 2024. Not only is it our 25th anniversary, but it's our Normandy Camporee in April as well.
Oh.
And so we do on every 5-year of the
landings.
The landings, thank you. We'll do a camporee on Omaha Beach. And so we have always like a big campfire ceremony, Eagle Scout ceremony, things like that. But it's open to all the Scout orgs kind of around us as well.
Nice.
So like the French Scouts definitely participate and have a time.
As you do.
Yes. So we've got a lot of fun things, and Camp Aventura BSA is kind of like our aquatics-based camp, which is in Croatia on the Adriatic Sea. So you're going to get a lot of those like small boat sailing, swimming, life-saving, as well as Scout skills and things like that. But yeah, we've got a lot of fun things for Transatlantic Council.
Well, and on that, I mean, you mentioned that, they can like, that they can book into adventures at Camp Alpine at KISK with Transatlantic Council. Like, so maybe just quickly, like, let's walk through the process for that, just in case anybody's curious. And then maybe if there's a separate process that international Scouts need to follow, right? Like if a Canadian group wanted to hop in on any of this. We only have Zoom is telling me I have 8 minutes left, so hopefully we can squish all that in there. But, or is it so if a U.S. group wanted to book in with Transatlantic Council, come to Camp Alpine, do stuff, would they go through like the Transatlantic Council web portal, or would they go through KISK itself?
Yeah, so if any U.S. troops are like, yes, we want to come over to Camp Alpine and participate with Transatlantic Council in one of our 2 weeks of program, then yes, they would book through us, and they pay the fees and they tell us all the information, and then we actually handle the bookings on our end with KISK, and we go to them and say, hey, we've got 12 going for whitewater rafting, and they'll give us the appropriate supplies that we need. So we kind of handle those things. If they're outside of the BSA, they would have to go through KISK. We can't handle that part. So they would have to do everything through KISK. That's not to say that we haven't had multiple Scout groups go on a high adventure or on what we would call our summit program, but they do it on their own time and they pay their own thing, but doesn't mean that two groups don't essentially end up at the same place at the same time.
All righty, cool. And yeah, I'm just looking at the Transatlantic Council website now, and I'll probably throw a few links into the show notes here because, like, I've got like obviously the main Transatlantic Council website. Ooh, I really like that crest. I'm gonna have to see if I can find one online somewhere. And then I've got like, I'll put in links for like Transatlantic Council, and then I've got the Camp Alpine sub page thereof. Reserve your spot for 2024, Session 1, 23rd to 29th June, Session 2, 30th June to 6th July.
Yeah.
Cool. And then I found Camp Aventura's page, the Normandy page, 191-day countdown.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, I've got all of this up. So I'll put in links for all of that in the show notes then. And people can find out more, and hopefully they do.
Yeah. And any of our BSA listeners, we are in the deposit phase, so you can throw down a $100 deposit and it saves spots for you. That just lets us know kind of a preliminary guess on how many people are coming. So yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I mean, thank you then so much for reaching out first and for being available to do this recording on relatively short notice.
Absolutely.
And thanks for the added information about Transatlantic, about Camp Alpine. It's an awesome initiative, one that obviously the U.S. has a very unique and particular need for, given sort of its global presence. But it's really, really cool that it exists. And it's another awesome chance to, represent KISC and tell more people that, hey, this place exists and you should go there because it's like Disneyland if you like scouting.
Truly. I've been there 3 times now, and the view never gets old.
I can't imagine it ever would, Alrighty. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you out there for listening, and until next time, be prepared.